Tough Crowd fans. Today we have True Crime Day with the Tough Crowd. Judge Jenny and Cousin Gracie, new to the Tough Crowd podcast. Welcome, Cousin Gracie.
Thank you. I feel honored to be here and to talk about my favorite thing, murder.
Why? Well, first of all, we were struggling immensely. I had this whole setup practiced several times this week, and it was working perfectly until tonight when we couldn't hear each other, couldn't see each other, or both, or whatever. So,
Listen, it was partly my fault too. Apparently, I need to be the nerd that has the AirPods, and so
you do
I
not
must
have the
have pulled some-
professional headphones. Hopefully, you can work your way up the ladder to that. That's at the first promotion level is the headphones.
Yeah, and like
So,
I said, like once we're famous and people know us around the world, and we're making millions of dollars off this podcast because people just can't get enough. They will see my humble roots and they'll appreciate them.
I think they will.
Mhm.
Why, before we start, why do you think that people love true crime? It's obviously in its major growth period right now.
I know. I think people just love things that are incredibly shocking. And I guess the only word that comes to mind, and granted, I am, it's the end of the day, so I'm a little lost for vocabulary, but I think people love things that are gross almost, and people are riveted when there's something that like feels so human. Like they are like, this could never happen to me, but like it could.
But
Which
isn't it more that if somebody feels like, okay, I'm having this issue or that issue in my life or this problem, but at least I'm not on trial for murder.
Yeah, I mean, I
That
think
comparison.
I think that's part of it. I also think it depends on the crime. Like if you're looking at like I one thing that comes to mind is I watched a documentary like so long ago on Netflix about Ted Bundy. And they were talking about how all these people were like writing to Ted, were watching his trial, and were fascinated by him and what he did, and not
Mhm.
necessarily grossed out. And I think it's also too like you want to know how a human got to that point because they were maybe experiencing some of the same problems that like you and I experience on a day to day.
Right.
They were like they lost a job, or they broke up with a significant other, and then all of a sudden they like snapped and
Become
decided,
a serial killer? You think that?
well,
I think he was a bad seed from the start. I'm sorry.
definitely a bad seed from the start, but it's also for the people that maybe like knew him or like were around him at some point, they're like, well, I knew a completely different person. How does somebody become that way? And I think we as humans are so curious about what other people are doing all the time.
Or he was just good at hiding it and blending. He was a good chameleon. I mean, I'm sure there's
Yeah.
some people that snap and they have something that happens to them that changes how they see the world, how they act in the world, right?
Yeah.
But I also think a big part of true crime is that when you're watching something, you're thinking, "Oh, what a stupid criminal. I am so much smarter than they are. I wouldn't
The
have done that. Like that is so dumb." Right? Isn't that part of the whole attraction?
I mean, yeah. When you watch some of these things and then the cops are like, "Yeah, I found a print on like the toilet seat handle." I'm like, I wouldn't have left that there. I would have worn a glove. Like, but come on, you think I would
Right.
be thinking about wearing a glove if I was actually doing it? Probably not. But me, being a normal person sitting on my couch, I'm like, would have worn a glove, rookie, or
Yes,
like
I would have had it all planned out and I would have been very calm the entire time, right? Like
totally.
not that we're thinking or trying to coach people
No,
into committing crimes, that's not
no.
the point.
Mm-mm.
But I think that that's part of it, but I think also going back to Ted Bundy versus, now with technology, you don't have the likelihood of somebody getting away with things perpetually because of the databases and everything else. Back when he was, doing what he was doing, you didn't have the tracking on the cars. You didn't have the cell phones. You didn't have all the cameras in public.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're at a different point where everything is, seen on camera or recorded somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And remember, the cloud never goes away.
Oh my God. Like,
it's
yes.
always in the cloud. You
It's
think you erased it?
In the cloud.
And that's for Michael Proctor from the Karen Reed case. If you don't know that, we'll talk about it at some point. That's where Gracie and I bonded over the summer. Was the Karen Reed trial, and he was a policeman, but he had a cloud problem and has a cloud problem.
Yes. Karen Reed, and I know we'll talk about this later, but it was one of the prime examples of me actually being riveted to a case as it was happening, because I think a lot of times I would just read about it. Like, I would never watch an actual court case. And hers was so intriguing in so many ways, because, I mean, like every bit of our society, there was a certain system in place, maybe working for her or against her. We'll get to that later. But it was really the first time you kind of got to see that play out. And I wanted to see it play out in real time versus going back later and reading a New York Post article or reading a Daily Mail article or reading a New York Times article about it.
Right.
You wanted to see what she was saying and what she was doing in real time.
For sure. Yeah. And I think that they finally have the technology now that you can live stream even, any court trial, except federal trials. They don't allow cameras in there. But a lot of these trials, some of them have awful audio. So you're just, you're struggling to listen. And the guy, in this last trial, we'll talk about this, is it Brandon Banfield?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
His attorney did not like the microphone. It was like, and I have another question. It's like, what? What did you say?
Up. We can't hear you.
Get back to the microphone. So I think that's, improved everybody's experience in watching a trial.
Yeah.
Because you have all that.
I wish they let cameras in federal courtrooms, because I feel like those would be the most interesting cases to watch.
But you know why they should? Because justice dies in darkness, Gracie.
Isn't that weird? Found? I had a weird spidey sense that you were going to say that, and I just wanted to hear you say it. Correct. Justice does die in darkness.
I mean, it's not true. The same. The P. Diddy trial was not the same because you heard all these, and not that I was really going to watch that anyways. Like, most of the testimony was just awful and sad and horrific. But there's also another trial similar to that going on down here with the Alexander brothers. Actually, it's in New York, but they are from down here. So they're, but it's federal court. So you just have the sketch artist. So you just have the one picture of the guy like this in court.
It's,
with his cartoon hair and his like weird smile. And like, that's it. That's all we got.
I watched, and we can talk about this more later, but I watched the Diddy documentary on Netflix, mainly because I was like, I want to know from people who might have testified what happened in trial.
Oh, yes.
And, they got people who did testify to come forward and speak about what they said and what they experienced with him. And he is a beyond fucked up individual on so many levels, in my opinion.
But have you watched that you said you watched the documentary on Netflix? Yes.
Yeah. Yes, I watched it, and it was, every time, I don't know what and who decided that this sketch artist had free reign, but they drew Diddy like he was Pennywise. I was like, why does he have the Pennywise smile? I was stuck on that for a while, and I'm sitting here and.
But that's what I mean. So you're not getting the information. You're not getting to see and feel how a witness is testifying. You're
Yeah.
just getting it secondhand. And so, when it's a written transcript, it's not recorded, at least for us to hear. I'm sure it's recorded somewhere, I guess. I don't know. But, when somebody reads it on the news, it just doesn't have the same impact as if you were hearing it and seeing their mannerisms.
Yeah. And I mean, every single outlet had like a live feed for that trial, like reporting, whatever it's called, reporting as it goes. And I think I followed a couple of them and I was like, it's just not okay. Like, yeah. So he, like when you hear it from like just a news feed, like, yeah, he like, kidnapped one of his employees in his car and he like went over to Kid Cudi's house and like tried to like assassinate him. It's
Right.
like, okay, it sounds so far-fetched, but I'm sure if you were hearing it live in the courtroom or even a video, you'd be like, oh my God, that's crazy.
Right. Right. And you saw some of the exhibits, etc. But I
Yeah.
think that there's that other guy that's going on trial for killing Tupac.
Oh, well, that's
Is it
that's
Tupac
connected.
or Tupac?
I mean, I say Tupac, but I think I say Tupac mainly because they talked about that in the Diddy documentary.
I think it's Tupac. I think if you're cool, you're
Diddy's
saying
the one
Tupac.
that actually killed Tupac, and I will stand on that.
Yeah. I don't want to be put in the
live.
old category saying Tupac.
Deuces, Tupac.
But I think it seems like they allege in the documentary that he was the one that made that happen. So it's going to be interesting to see if this guy turns on him because he hasn't so far, I don't believe.
Well, he did.
Oh, he did turn on the guy that's on trial did?
So there's a recording of him in the documentary that somehow 50 Cent and these producers got because I'm sure people were
Isn't it 50 Cent?
50 Cent. 50 Cent, the king of pettiness, as we like to call him, which we love that for him. They got this recording in the documentary when they're talking about Tupac and how he died and all of that and Diddy's involvement. Apparently, a couple of cops went to this guy after he'd been arrested for something else and was already serving time for something else. I can't even remember what it was.
The defendant in the Tupac murder trial.
The defendant.
Yes. Okay.
And he basically says in an audio recording that some like Diddy's uncle, who is now deceased due to cancer, rest in peace, now deceased, had paid this guy a certain amount of money. And this certain amount of money was promised to him by Diddy if he were able to go through with killing Tupac Shakur. And they had like all of this.
But who's saying this in this recording?
The defendant.
Oh.
The defendant is saying this. But the thing is that
but it's a recording not done by the documentary people. They didn't find him and record him.
Cops, and they turned it over.
All right, gotcha.
Yeah,
okay.
Sorry, I was not very clear with that.
Yeah,
but
okay.
They turn over this recording to the producers, and in the recording he says all of these things, but there's no credible proof to back that up. It's just his word. And at that point, you're taking the word of a career criminal, a career gangster, however you want to label this defendant. And so I don't think that they can use it. Because what are you going to do? You're going to pull out that recording and then you can immediately have Diddy's lawyers come in and be like, well, where's your proof? Do you have a transfer of money? The money was never fully transferred. It's not in
right. They can dispute it, but it will be admitted into court.
Yeah, but it's not going to get Diddy indicted.
No,
convicted.
Because I think they would have already done that.
Right.
So the feds have already lost big. I know he got convicted of violating the Mann Act, which is transporting somebody across state lines for the purpose of sex. So I know that he got convicted of that, but he didn't get convicted of the worst charges.
No.
So, and the feds win like 90% of the cases they bring. They don't usually bring a case unless they think they can win it. So I don't know that they're going to go after him again, but he could totally self-implode.
He could self-implode. I mean, it's all a matter now of what he says when he's in prison, who else decides? I mean, he's facing a bunch of civil lawsuits right now, too. He's never going to go back to when he's released, which is crazy to say. He's never going to go back to throwing these Diddy parties. And he's never going to
But
go back to.
so what do you think of the women that some of whom were, girlfriends, acquaintances, and then some of whom were hookers that came to these events, these freak offs, and then had issues with it after or 20 years later? Like, it's, I think everything he did was disgusting, but is it truly illegal if they signed up for it? And I'm not saying all of them did. I have I know he abused and assaulted a lot of people, but are there some in there that like they signed up for it and now they're on the bandwagon because he's going down?
I mean, I think it's a big gray area for sure. I think that, some of these women knew that this is what he liked to do. And then I think that they chose to do it because he promised them things in return. Maybe let's say, for example, I know that he was in like a 3-man band, we'll call it, with 2 other women.
Mhm.
One of said women came forward and they had a
Yes.
consensual relationship.
Yep.
But she was promised her own album.
Right.
She was
Right.
promised X amount of money. She never got that, but because he kept promising it and would give her, little bits at a time.
But that seems to be his MO, right? It
Right.
wasn't so much like, I'm going to kill you as I'm going to do this for you, of course, and like keep pulling the carrot farther away.
Right. And I think that's where the gray area is for some of these women, it did start out as consensual because they thought that they were going to get something. And it's all about comfort level too, which we'll never know unless we talk to each individual person. Maybe they were comfortable doing it at first. And then, after a
Yes,
while,
for sure.
it's like, well, I don't really want to do
When
that
he
anymore.
when he brought in the vats of, what was it? Baby oil, whatever it was.
So I was so curious because there were different kinds of baby oil in those pictures.
Different brands?
Yeah, like there was Johnson and Johnson, which is I feel like he just made Johnson and Johnson unpure in a way. And then there was, some sort of like cheap CVS brand. And
Maybe he bought out the Johnson and Johnson stock in Miami one day and he had to go to CVS.
Well, so that was gonna be my question is did you buy out the stock of baby oil, or is it like there's a viscosity thing with each one? They're like different, or I mean, I don't know how different brands of baby oil work because I don't use baby oil, but I don't know. It was a little weird seeing that much baby oil in a not even a bin. It was like lined up in like a perfect line.
Oh yeah, no, it was like on a store display almost. They had it. I remember from the documentary.
Yeah, and I just remember being like, "What? So it's easy access to go over and grab a bottle, or like, let me shop around. I want the CVS or the Johnson and Johnson. I mean, whatever works that day, I guess. I don't know.
Do you think he can resurrect his career
God,
after
no.
what? Oh, you don't think? See, I disagree. I bet I never really liked him at all. I didn't really, I wasn't invested in him in any way. I just knew of him.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I'm going to bet that he can make a comeback at some point. People forget.
Here is where, I mean, people will totally forget.
Not that I'm saying that he should make a comeback or that I'd be a fan of his making a comeback. I'm not for him. Thumbs down, Diddy.
Big red X. I think you have a point. I think the reason why he can never come back is because he has been persecuted socially in a similar way in which the people who were associated with Jeffrey Epstein have been persecuted. once people hear these things, or even the people around him, right? Like, we can't really speak to Jeffrey too much because he died shortly after he was whatever.
Right.
But I think because of the way he's been socially persecuted, and I do think there is video of him out there beating up on Cassie. There are pictures. You now have this documentary.
Yeah,
I
I
do
think I
think,
think it's the Cassie video and the documentary together that could seal his fate. I'm just saying in my lifetime, I've seen people that when you look at them, you're like, wow, they came back from whatever.
yeah,
And it's shocking. So maybe he won't. But I also don't believe that he can change his behavior based on what that documentary said because he was a thug from a very young age.
yeah. And I mean, that had to do with the image of his father and the way that his mother
Yep.
raised him. And I think that everybody's parenting style is their parenting style. I do think it was questionable for the way in which he was raised to be raised around the kind of drugs, alcohol, um, partying, working, we'll call working lifestyle
Right.
that he was around. Um, and that's no fault to his
You know,
mother
I
in a
think I think that
sense.
was also the time,
Yeah.
where they lived, the time in history, how things were done in that area, and he just got exposed to things that were probably not the best for him and
Yeah.
gave him different thoughts on life.
Yeah.
But he also could have been born a certain way that he didn't have empathy for other people, and I think all that money and fame that he got at a really young age when you think about it,
Mm-hmm.
twisted his view of what he could do, what he could get away with.
I agree with that. I think at the end of the day, he looks like one of the Alvin and the Chipmunks because of the way his teeth are, and I think that he's where he needs to be right now. And once he surfaces back up on the scene for something, that'll be
Well,
the
he's gonna
interesting
be
thing.
persona non grata. Nobody's gonna wanna be near him. Like,
Yeah,
who wants to get their
definitely.
picture taken with
No, but it's the
him,
moment.
around
It's
him?
it's like the moment that he's released from jail
Right.
is going to be the moment in which we circle back to him, and we're like, what are you going to do now? Hmm.
Yeah. I think that there'll be a camera on him and people
Yeah,
will be all over. The paparazzi will not leave him alone because they're just
definitely
gonna
not.
wait for him to screw up.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, I think that the person that might report on him, depending on how this goes, might be Savannah. Might be Savannah
Uh,
Guthrie. And I know that
it
she's
could
she's a
be.
hot topic right now. I mean, we got to talk
So
about
I
it.
think we gotta go. I think we gotta move on to that because this is the obsession. I really
Mm-hmm.
think it's the obsession of the country and probably parts of the world right now
Uh-huh.
because it is such a bizarre set of circumstances that I'm sure everybody knows her mother went missing in Arizona and was found to be missing last Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Today being Friday, so that's 5.5 days she's been missing.
Mm-hmm.
And there's all these different theories. And so everybody's reporting different things. And then people are picking apart the investigation, which I think with the severity of this situation, I think we're all entitled to do. Sorry, whatever Pima County police, like, I don't know what they're doing. It's absolutely crazy.
I mean, Sheriff Nanos, first of all, I thought of a Nintendo Switch when I heard his
I'm
name. I was
sure
like,
he's like a very nice man, but he's killing me from the start. He started out at the first press conference, he's crying. And I'm thinking, I'm sorry, if I'm missing and somebody's looking for me, I don't want the leader of the investigation crying.
no,
Like,
no.
buckle up, buddy. Put your big boy pants on. Let's go.
I mean, I want to know what you think of his methodology, though, because not only was he crying at this press conference, it seemed like he was leading the investigation and we can speak more to timeline because the timeline is
Right.
very fuzzy. And we talked about this earlier. I think I'm gonna make a
Yep.
poster, and we're gonna map it out. Maybe I'll bring it on here, and we can do a little show and tell. But I want to know what you think about his methodology after the press conference.
Does he have methodology? That's the question, I
It
think.
it felt like, you know, the Guthrie family found out she was missing. They call the cops. Cops come over. Oh my God. It looks like she was taken. Has the press conference. And then all of a sudden there's this ransom note. And then
So
they
I
go
think
back.
there's so many. Yes. So I'll say what I think are the top, besides the timeline, we can talk about that. But the top 3 problems I see with this are, first of all, they didn't cordon off the crime scene, or they did initially cordon off the crime scene with crime scene tape, but then left quickly. And normally you don't release a crime scene that quickly unless, there's a family that needs to get back into the house. There's no reason anybody needed to get back into the house. Nobody else lived there. So they released the crime scene, and then Brian Enton, who's a reporter that does really great stuff on YouTube, he went there with his camera crew, walked right up the sidewalk and filmed these blood drops on the front step and the cradle where the Nest camera was. So he's just wandering around there, and he had no ill intent. I think he was probably shocked that he got up there and that was there. But then yesterday and the day before, they went back, put up the crime scene tape, did more searches. Now they also supposedly did that at the sister's house.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing. And then the differing stories on the timeline and what happened. And we have a lot of other reporters and, newspapers coming out and saying there's this problem or that problem, which we'll get into with the timeline. And then just the way 3, I think it's the way he's addressing everybody at these press conferences. Like, I don't know why you're giving a press conference, because you're giving misinformation.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't answer the questions. If you listen to the questions and hear what he says, you think that didn't answer the question. So that's where I think he went wrong. How about you? What do you think?
Oh my God, where do I begin? Well, my one thing was going to be the same thing as you, like how he answers the questions at these press conferences. And I was reading through, my mom and Dallas have turned me on to Reddit.
Yes.
And
what a cesspool that place is.
It's honestly, there's some wild fucking things on Reddit, and I care for
there really
none of
are.
that. But I will say, I do follow this Savannah Guthrie chain, and they were talking specifically about the press conferences.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody was saying, because now there are federal agencies involved. President Trump apparently had a phone call with Savannah, said that he's willing to give her federal resources.
Right.
That the federal agencies came in, basically said the best way to find this kidnapper or this ransomer, however you want to label it,
the perpetrator,
the perpetrator, the unknown subject, is to essentially like throw them off the trail. Don't let them know publicly that you might be onto them. Throw them off intentionally. Answer incorrectly. Say something about the ransom.
You're saying people on Reddit have this theory?
Yeah,
that he's being bumbling. Theory. He's not just bumbling. He's purpose. See, I don't buy that. I think they just lucked out with him.
Well, I mean, I think that could be part of it. But then I also think about the video that Savannah and her siblings put forward, which
that's a whole topic
we'll get into that
itself.
Too. But that also was very rehearsed and trained. The words were very specific that they used. It's the same idea of being intentional without like letting said kidnapper, who by the way might be the brother-in-law, said kidnapper know
Right.
that they might have a better idea of where they might be. So I
So
think that, I do think that he is a little bit of a bumbling idiot because I see him in interviews with reporters and I'm like, what are you like, what are you looking at? Or like, what are you referencing right now? With the ransom note specifically, he's like, yeah, I think it's credible. Great. What about it makes it credible? Why don't you tell us? Tell us more. I mean, so I think that he is bumbling, but he could be bumbling slightly on purpose. We'll say it's like half and half.
So I'm going to share this. Let's see if I can do this. Let's see.
Ooh.
Look at us. Look at us, high tech.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can. Oh, I can look at that.
There we go.
All right. So this is the timeline. So the timeline that they posted on the Monitor at the press conference.
Mm-hmm.
And this sort of establishes what we've been told since this all began.
Right.
So the first thing is it says January 31st, which is Saturday, right? Saturday night. 5:32 p.m. Nancy, which is Savannah's mother, Nancy Guthrie, travels to local family's home. Okay. There's so much in this whole timeline. So 5:32 p.m. she travels to local family's home. Well, it supposedly was Savannah's sister and brother-in-law's home, which is 10 minutes away, and she was Ubering there. Now, I haven't heard anything from an Uber driver, any more information about that. So there's so many questions with that. So first of all, why is she Ubering if it's only 10 minutes away? Did she want to Uber? Did they make her Uber? And she sounds like she had a lot of mobility issues. So that doesn't sound like somebody that's going to go out and jump in an Uber, especially where she lived in a relatively rural area. She wasn't like in a city.
Right.
So what do you think of that whole part of it?
I feel like we would have gotten the name of an Uber driver by now.
Or he would have been somewhere. He would have been on TikTok or
he would have been on
interviewed
TikTok,
somewhere, right?
He would have been on Instagram. He would have, honestly, because of the amount of attention this case has already gotten, it's been, 5 days, he would have probably come forward to get his, maybe it's 15 minutes. Maybe it's just to be a good citizen.
Right.
Somebody would have come forward. So that's my first thought. My second thought, I think about same thing, mobility. I think about her needing medication, having to get at a certain time. I think about her, on a January 31st, going over at 5:30 to somebody's family home.
But again, so think about this. I know I've had surgery or other things that made me not move quickly, etc. And if I was going over to, Emma's house or whatever, they would come and pick me up. You would come and pick me up if you were 10 minutes away. You wouldn't be like, okay, well, hobble out to the Uber by yourself, right? I don't know. It seems very strange to do that.
It does seem very strange, but there's so much missing from this case. But one of my most curious things is family dynamic. We kind of know her dynamic with Savannah.
Right.
Because Savannah
apparently from TV and yes, and she's been on the Today Show and all that.
She's been on the Today Show. All the other anchors know her, clearly Savannah has taken the time to care from her, whether it be near her or afar. Great. The other two siblings, we have no idea what the dynamic is. And listen, we all have the family members that maybe we're like, I don't need to go super out of my way for. I'll go out of my way to an extent.
but only so far as it suits me.
As far as it suits me is right. But I would also never, if I knew somebody was immobile,
But this
that I
is
was
your mom,
related to.
and they had a good,
Right.
let's pretend they have a good relationship. Let's pretend. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand why that was happening. So that's 5:32. And then they say local families home. So, all right, why not sisters, Nancy's daughter's home? Why are they saying that? They're being very vague.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get that part. So then they do whatever they do. They supposedly go out to dinner, which I'm totally a fan of a 5:30 dinner. You don't have to ask me twice for a 5:30 dinner. Sounds fantastic. But so then she's 84 years old, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now it says 9:48 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
So where were they? What were they doing for 4 hours? Family drops Nancy off at home and garage door opens. So they're dropping off an 84-year-old woman at 9:48. I'd be mad if somebody was dropping me off at 9:48. I'd be like, this is too late. Why were we out so long? That's a long dinner for somebody that age. But pretend they ran into somebody, they're having a great time. All right, we get over that hump. Then we go to drops her off at home. The garage door opens. So it opens at 9:48 p.m., the garage. All right. And that's how I come in my house when my friends drop me off. There's no way I am hustling in and shutting that door by 9:50 most of the time. And she couldn't even move. Right? So how, and then why, if that is the case, why weren't they helping her in? Was she just jumping out of the car and running in and hitting the garage? That doesn't seem plausible.
No, definitely not. And there is a theory that is completely crazy and out there about this, that people are like, it's nuts, but it could happen. And again, it plays into the whole perfect crime ransom
Tell me.
crap, that somebody went and did these things, came to her house a certain time and shut the garage door to make it look like she was the one coming home. Now, they didn't do a good job, because to your point, an immobile woman would not be able to get in the door, have it closed that fast, all that. It does leave the blood portion on the porch that you mentioned earlier.
And it also leaves the fact that her phone was left there, and her pacemaker didn't disconnect from her phone until 2:28 a.m.
Right. So there is another piece of this theory.
So she had to be there. I mean, based on this information, she'd have to be there between the 9:50 p.m. And I don't know if they looked at cell phones to see where she was this whole time, anybody else's cell phone. So let's leave that aside. I know they're trying to do that now, but we don't know that yet. So just based on this, she ostensibly was there from 9:50 or 9:48 until 2:28 a.m. Right? So it wouldn't have been somebody, and she was alive because her pacemaker was working, right?
Right. But as I found out earlier, and as we found out earlier, a pacemaker doesn't necessarily always transfer data the immediate time that it's happening.
Right.
So we don't know if she was there until 2:28, or if her pacemaker just kind of had the data at 2:28.
Right.
Which is the last time she might have been able to transfer something to her phone.
And it doesn't, we researched this, our research department researched this, and we determined that it doesn't send a signal, it can't send a signal to your kids or whomever to say your pacemaker is offline. It doesn't work like that.
No, they would have to, the person who has the pacemaker, if it's connected, everything's connected now to an iPhone or an Apple Watch, they'd have to press the emergency SOS, and that would notify a family member.
An emergency SOS on the phone?
Yes. Okay. They can connect that to the pacemaker. So if somebody presses the emergency SOS, it can tell them like, okay, the pacemaker, something might be wrong with the pacemaker, something is wrong with them. We need to go check. But the person
Wait,
who has it,
who's pushing the emergency SOS?
the person, so like Nancy Guthrie would
Yep.
be pushing it.
Okay. Right. But what if what if her pacemaker malfunctioned and she fell down? I don't think it's telling.
Know. We wouldn't know.
Which seems like a flaw in the system. Like, or is it, if it's attached to the phone at that point, is that phone sending somebody a message saying, hey, the pacemaker's not working?
Well, I think with the phone, I think that with the pacemaker, like if there's an app, and I don't have a pacemaker, so I cannot speak to this. Our fans who might have a pacemaker, let us know if this is true or not. I wonder if you have to go into the app and you have to set it setting wise. So it'll tell somebody if you've fallen, or, to send a message when the last bit of data. I don't know. I don't know how it all works with the pacemaker. I thought it would be more.
Let's see, like we can add, let's see. Why is it? Let's see. Share screen. Okay, let me get this other one up. Window. Here it is. All right. So if we look at this, let me just go over here. I can tell you. A pacemaker connected via Bluetooth to an Apple Watch does not automatically send notifications to loved ones if it disconnects, while it sends data by exception to a clinical monitoring system when in range. A disconnection, such as when the phone is left behind or the battery dies, results in a loss of monitoring without notifying the family. No live stream data. If the watch is removed, the battery dies, or the user is away from their phone, the data transmission to the clinic stops. No automatic SOS. Apple Watch can, however, send alerts to emergency contacts if fall detection is enabled.
So there you go. So if she fell and she has an Apple Watch, which I'm assuming she does, I mean, that assumption's wrong.
No, they said she has an Apple Watch.
Oh, okay, good, because I probably missed that piece in my other bits of that I was focused on. But she has an Apple Watch, so they could have enabled her to have the fall, the emergency SOS, like have that automatically be detected. But if they didn't have that, I mean, they assumed probably because she lives in an affluent community in Arizona where she knew all her neighbors and she lived in $1 million home. And I'm not saying that this could happen. It could happen anywhere.
That just seems like a bad system. Like, I don't know, right?
It's a horrible system. If you or my mom or my dad ever got a pacemaker, I'd make sure that I had every alert on. It would tell me when Eric and Sarah and Jenny were breathing.
Right. Like, I feel like that should be a thing, but obviously it's not. So based upon all her health issues, to let her go in through the garage by herself with the cane at night, it just seems preposterous. I don't picture that happening in our family. Do you know what I mean? Like, if anybody was in that situation, I don't picture any of us saying, like, I even have friends now that insist on coming in. I open the garage, like we go in, open the door, everything's okay. Okay. Like, yeah, we do that for each other if we're, living by ourselves that night or whatever. So I don't know. So that's that one. So there's lots of possibilities there. And then we have the 1:47 a.m. The doorbell disconnects. And then 2:12 a.m. software detects person on camera. So they said that the Nest cams, I guess there were 2 of them at least, were smashed, quote unquote. That's some reports, but they don't have them. They're gone. And in the press conference, he said, we don't know where they are. We don't have them. So he didn't really answer the question. But if they're smashed, they can't detect anything, right? Because the camera is not there.
Right. But then also, like, how do you know? How can they say that they're smashed if they don't have the camera to begin with? That's my question. How are you saying to me the camera is
I don't
smashed
know,
and
unless
then
they
saying,
found like glass or plastic from the camera on
but
the
glass,
ground.
like glass at a house can be from anything.
Right. And these things are small and I think they're all plastic. I mean, I
Right.
have the Nest Cam and it's all plastic, I think.
Right. So, but like, how can you tell me that you know what happened to the camera if you don't have the camera to begin with?
Yeah, I don't
That
know.
to me.
There's so many questions that there every time this guy has a press conference, it just I think you could be right, Gracie. It could be
Yeah.
like distract because
Mm-hmm.
it's working because
Right.
everybody is like, what is he talking about? He's not answering the questions. And then so if the doorbell disconnects,
Mm-hmm.
then how is the software detecting a person on camera half an hour later? Was only one disconnected and the other one picked it up? I don't know. Like, how is that happening?
I I wonder. She had all these security measures in her house. She is an 84-year-old woman living alone.
But
Who's
nobody bought her the subscription. Let's
no
just point that out. I
right.
mean, I think I don't think it was a choice. I think people just forgot. Like it
Yeah.
was one of those things like, oh, because it's through Google Home that you get these subscriptions because I have one. So it records things and you can look back and say, why did this, who took my package or who was knocking on my door at this time?
Right.
But she didn't have that. So I think it only goes back like that day, maybe. I don't even know if it goes back that day. But if it's disconnected at 147, what's picking up the person on camera at 212? Unless it's delayed from the 147 and the time's off. I don't know. That's perplexing to me. I don't know what happened there. And then the 228, the pacemaker app shows disconnect from phone. So ostensibly that her person was carried away far enough from the phone so it couldn't send a signal to the phone anymore.
Yeah.
That's sort of the simplest one.
Right.
And then the whole thing of how they discovered she was missing, because on this current timeline, it says 11:56 a.m. So this is Sunday, February 1st.
Mm-hmm.
Family checks on Nancy, 12:03 p.m., 911 call, 12:15 p.m., police arrive.
Mm-hmm.
They're now saying that it was different, that they got a call earlier from this person who said she wasn't at church and that they went over there at 11 and that it was not 11:56, so it took them longer to call the police than the 7 minutes that's on the police timeline, that they actually were there earlier.
Right. And if they were there earlier, right? Like you could argue that if it was her family that went over first, which
like maybe she had a habit, like maybe sometimes her friend picked her up. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe there were circumstances that led them to think, and probably in denial too, because this is such a bizarre story. The whole United States is in denial about it, right? So I can see them being like, well, she's got to be somewhere. Where is she? I hope she didn't fall down. Maybe she went out in the backyard. I mean, who knows? Like, so I can sort of see that for a period of time, but an hour seems excessive if somebody said she didn't show up to church and you can't find her in the house immediately.
Right. And all the reports keep saying the Guthrie family and grouping them as a whole. I want to know specifically, and I think that plays into why it was an hour, if we're honest. I want to know who specifically was there first.
Right. And they haven't told us that.
Right. So we don't know. And I think now that the brother-in-law is a suspect, you know, if they were there first, and if he did have a part in this, were they there covering things up, cleaning things up? Were they there stalling the other family members that arrived at some point? And then we're like, okay, let's call the police now.
But I think that the police have got to be able to find that. Supposedly they were there with this Celebrate software, which you remember from the Karen Reed trial, and it gets cell phone information. They were doing all of that over the last 2 days, extracting that. So that should tell them, okay, where were their phones? Were their phones where they said they were? Were their phones left somewhere else where it didn't make sense not to have their phones? Because honestly, most people today have their phone with them.
Right.
At all times.
All the time.
So I think that they're going to be able to pull that apart. And it's not clear when they interviewed them, if they interviewed them separately. You know, there's none of that information, which is fine if that's helping them figure this out. But the whole church thing is now at issue because there's several reports saying that she hadn't been going to that church since the pandemic, that she had only been watching it on live stream. So who is this person? So the person that said, oh, wait, Nancy's not at church. Why haven't we seen her anywhere?
Well,
right?
What if we have, and we just don't know that she is the church person? And what I'm alluding to is, what if it's the sister who's married to the brother-in-law? What if she is helping her husband for whatever reason it may be?
Yeah.
It has to be somebody.
Oh, so she's claiming that this church person called her, but there is no church person. You're saying.
Yeah. What if she is doing
interesting
that?
Angle.
What if she is doing that because, you know, she wants to help her husband for whatever reason it might be. Maybe she's in on it. Maybe she found out that he has a part in it, and she is now trying to help, quote unquote, clean up the mess. What if she didn't think that it would be the strangest thing to say, because nobody would really know the difference unless they were somebody that went to church with Nancy, saw her often enough, and then noticed the change during post-COVID where she was only doing the Zoom service. It has to, somebody at her church has to know Nancy well enough to know whether she was there all the time or not. And really, when people are at church, I imagine, I do not go to church regularly, so I do not know. I do imagine you see the same people and you talk to the same people that you might be friends with and see.
And honestly, somebody of her age in church would have friends.
Right.
So this is this here. This is a picture of the sister and brother-in-law leaving somewhere this week. So I don't know, like why are they hiding their faces? Like what that doesn't make any sense to me. Wouldn't you want to be front and center? I want to find my mom. Like you're not caring about yourself. So to be in that position, very odd.
I cannot stop thinking about the picture of the brother-in-law. I looked at him and I thought to myself, Yeti, first of all. And then I took a second look at him. And you know, when somebody has the best way that I would describe it is like crazy eyes. Like when you look at somebody who might be a little cuckoo and you're like, yikes.
But you got to wonder, like, would we have had that thought? We didn't really have a chance. I didn't know who he was, what he looked like, that he existed really until it was brought up that he was a possible suspect. So when I first saw him, that was in my mind. So is our opinion of him colored by the fact that that was put in our mind already?
I mean, honestly, maybe we'll never know at this point because it was released after we were told he was a suspect. But I also do think I know myself, and I can only speak for myself. I know myself pretty well, and I would have looked at that picture and I would have thought the same thing. You look like a Yeti and you have some crazy eyes. You look kind of weird. And, maybe it's his aesthetic. It's not working in his favor if it is, but there's just something weird. And to your point, you are covering your faces like you are these big celebrities. I'd be sobbing in the car. I wouldn't care who sees me.
Right.
I'd be talking to every single reporter there is on planet Earth. I would be begging for my mom to come back. And it seems like both of them are just like, meh.
Yeah, and I think that sorry. The body language of them, I was trying to pull up a picture of them from their video, but everybody I'm sure has seen that, the video of the 3 of them, because there's a body language expert. I sent you that YouTube today.
You did.
On I Don't Belong Here, Samantha Beningo, I think his name, but she did a lot with the Karen Reed trial, and
we love her.
She's great, and she does like motivations, like why are people speaking a certain way? What could be the motivation? Who would be the possible perpetrator in this instant? And so she's going to, what my first gut reaction when this happened was that it was a stalker of some sort. Somebody who was so invested in Savannah Guthrie and having her attention that that this person decided, I'm going to, maybe they figured out where the mother was, like, who knows what happened, but that they took her and then realized, wait a minute, like, uh-oh, she's older. I can't care for her. Something bad happened. Hopefully that's not the case. And then they don't really know what to do, which is why you haven't heard like a specific ransom demand. She's also saying that maybe they have had a ransom demand, and that's why some of those bizarre things were said during their video.
How much do you think they asked for? Like, if you had to guess a number.
Do you know?
Do I know?
Yeah.
Like what my guess would be?
No. Do you know? You don't have, I didn't know if you had inside information from something you saw about.
I'm just curious.
Well, it was crypto, but then crypto has crashed recently. Crypto is like half the value it was a week ago.
Right. So if it is, I mean, Bitcoin, I think was at like 68, like stock wise today. Like, it's not doing well. But what do you think they asked for?
I think it's going to be something absurd, because I think that note is probably not real.
Definitely not real.
So I'm going to say they put in, like, I don't know. Did they put anything? Did the TMZ note, was that shown as to what that was?
No, I don't think it was. They talked about it. I think that they were asked not to show it. I could be completely wrong, but I remember listening to it as I was doing work in the office. Yes, you can listen to true crime while you do your work during the day. And they were talking about what was in it, and they weren't the only people to get the ransom note. They'd sent it to a local outlet in Arizona, and then they turned it into the police. The police asked them not to report on it at first, which is why they didn't say anything about it. After the police get the ransom note and release it, I think it was like TMZ, I think it was the New York Post, like one other one, all got the ransom note as well.
But I think it's different ransom notes.
They all say things that are slightly different, which means the person, whoever wrote it, was intentional about what they were saying each one. And it also speaks to who they sent it to, which outlets they sent it to. They're not
right,
because the New York Times.
Well, if you send it to TMZ, to me, that's somebody looking for attention. I mean, that's to 100%. Me what they're doing. And he's saying, Harvey Levin, who's the owner of TMZ or whatever, he said the note he said, when you read it, it's very detailed. And I guess it came by email. So no more of the notes they used to remember. They used to cut the letters out of the newspaper.
Yeah.
The email began by describing Nancy as okay, but scared. She's aware of the letter and the demands made in it. It says the letter, you will have no way of contacting me. This is the only contact. There will be no further communication, no negotiation, no communication. And that it mentions her Apple Watch and a damaged floodlight on the property, but nobody can determine when this note came in because if it came in after this information was already distributed to the public, they could have copied it from the news, right?
Mm-hmm.
The letter he received made mention of the placement of the Apple Watch, which he noted has not come out in the press yet. So does that mean that her watch was found in a certain spot in the house and they knew where they left it? That seems to allude to that fact.
It does allude to that fact. I also think when you are sending something to TMZ, you not only do you want attention, but like I was a prime example right there. I am somebody that like there are millions of people all across the world that watch or listen to TMZ. That is the fastest way to get information out.
Right.
And they are on all platforms too.
Right.
Like the New York Times is on Instagram, they're on, whatever, Google.
Yeah, but all of them, they have different standards in terms of what they're willing to print quickly, I think. So I think when you send it to a YouTuber or TMZ, it's going to be printed immediately, right?
100%. The intent
or
behind
distributed.
getting it right, and the intent behind getting it distributed immediately is you want as many people as possible, whether it's fake or not, to just hear your words. You are also intentionally trying to, if it's real, if the note is real, we don't know if the note's real,
Right.
But if it is real, you are intentionally then playing or insinuating or starting this game of like, it's almost like a nana foo-foo. You can't get me.
But they didn't say, correct me if I'm wrong, he didn't say did they ask for money in that note?
They didn't ask for money in that note. They were just describing her, describing places, describing
right. So
Apple
to me,
Watch.
if that's real, then that's somebody who's looking for attention. They want to, as Samantha was saying in her thing she did on YouTube, this is a person who wants to insert themselves in Savannah's life so they feel like they're getting attention from her. Obviously negative attention, but they're getting attention from her that they wanted, that they felt like they could get no other way.
But it's also the thrill. I think it's also the thrill of the game. Not only are they getting attention from Savannah, there's this game that they're playing with law enforcement, everybody in America.
But see, she seemed to say, again, she's a psychologist. Mm-hmm. She was saying that she thinks it's a mentally ill person that just got very fixated on Savannah. And there's history of this with celebrities. She was saying, can you imagine like Kim Kardashian? She must have a team that just looks after stalkers. I can only imagine, like people of that level of fame who are out there all the time. Like it's very troubling.
Right.
So this person just became fixated and this was the only way, maybe did they ever try to go meet her? Like who knows? And there's been celebrities killed by stalkers before.
Right.
And there may have been an ill-conceived plan that went wrong.
Right.
And now they don't know what to do.
I don't disagree with you there, but I also think if you are looking back at any sort of person who commits a major crime like this, and I'm going to call it a major crime because it is now national news. It's huge. When you commit a major crime like this, you are a little bit, even if you are considered like IQ smart, like you are also a little bit mentally ill if you are committing things like this. Like, you are also,
Oh,
there is
right.
also something
Obviously,
that's
yes.
broken there, but you're also smart enough in certain aspects to be like, this could be fun for me. Not only am I going to get to meet Savannah because I've been so fixated on her, because she consumes my life, and because, you know, maybe I went to the Today Show and she didn't say hi to me
Right.
when I was standing in the crowd, but it could also be a fun little side effect for myself if I'm playing a game
Right.
with law enforcement. It's a little something while I wait for her to come to me. I'm going to play a game with everybody else just while I'm waiting. It's like a chess game, I think, because you're sending different notes. If it's the same person, you're sending different notes to all of these different outlets. You're like alluding to things, you're
Right.
saying
And as
things.
soon as you do something, the entire US is like on their phones hearing about it.
Right. You
Right.
have the attention of the president of the United States of
Right.
America. You are a little bit like, I have all this attention now. Nana foo foo. Come
Right.
get me if you feel like you can solve the riddle that I'm putting out there to everybody. So I do think this person is completely 100% fixated on Savannah and wants to be around her, wants to be near her.
Right.
Maybe he's going to kidnap her next. We don't know. But, like, I assume not, because she's probably very well protected at this point. But maybe we'll try. But it's also a little bit like, I have so much attention. The president notices me. That's
Right. But again, anything they've done, you know, if they've done this with this note, everybody's, you know, focusing this on this all day and trying to figure it out because it's such a bizarre set of circumstances. You couldn't have written this. I mean, I know that there's
no.
been, I think there's a movie with a similar set of circumstances that somebody was talking about, but I think it was, I don't know if it was a younger person. I have to look it up, but there was, you know, there's been dramas that have been set with this, you know, somebody stealing somebody, kidnapping somebody to get the attention of a celebrity.
Yeah. I mean, I just, I mean, the fact that the amount of things that have happened in 5 days have happened, but yet we still don't know a lot of things. And the first 48 hours are crucial. And in the first 48 hours, we got a messed up crime scene. We got bloggers who have more than the cops do
Right.
about it. And then we have this ransom note. We have a brother-in-law as a suspect. It feels.
But typically, you know, they always teach you in law school, the simplest explanation is probably the most likely explanation. And in this case, it's whoever dropped her off, who had access to her. Like that would make the most direct sense. I'm not saying it's them or, you know, I don't know, but that's where I keep going back to. But
Yeah.
my first gut reaction when I saw it was stalker.
Yeah.
That was my first reaction.
Yeah.
So I think that we're going to have to stay on the case, Gracie.
We have to.
Because there's so much here and it's very frustrating with the lack of questions that are being asked. Different people I follow on YouTube, Megan Kelly and Ashley Banfield had a little thing on YouTube today about this. And they were talking about they wanted to go to these press conferences because they're getting frustrated and yelling at the TV when the other reporters are not asking the follow-up questions that they have based on how the sheriff is answering these questions, which he may not answer the questions anyways.
Right.
So I think we're going to have to keep following that. And what other, I think, let's list the other things that we're going to need to talk about in the coming weeks.
Well, so you mentioned one, Brandon, the IRS agent in Virginia, which is the neighboring
the au pair murder trial.
The au pair affair, as they say, that turned into a deadly crime in the neighboring state of Virginia, which was shocking to hear that it is actually only an hour away from where I live. We have that on the docket. We have Luigi Mangione now, the United Healthcare CEO killer. which, might feel like old news to some, but now he's actually starting to speak at his trial.
But again,
Um,
that's a federal trial. So we're
it
not going to
is.
see, it's not going to be televised, right?
It's not going to be televised, but I do think we're going to get a lot of press from that based on
Yes.
how he was arrested, based on how shocking it was that he was shot in Midtown Manhattan
Right.
outside of a hotel,
Right.
and it's Midtown Manhattan where tourists,
Right.
people walk. That one was wild to read about. Um, we have some other ones. I'm gonna
Timothy Busfield.
Timothy Busfield is another one. We
I
have
haven't kept up with that, but there was some news about that today, but I have to look
I
that
haven't
up.
referenced back to that one in a while, and I think it's because there's so many other ones that are at the forefront right now
Right.
for me that it's just it has fallen off. But don't worry, we'll visit
If
him.
something happens, I don't know he's out of jail right now. So I know there's
Right,
some news I saw today, but I couldn't keep up with all of it. The
right.
Alexander brothers, who are three
Mm-hmm.
brothers from Miami and New York, who are on trial again in federal court in New York. So we're not going to see it televised with P. Diddy like charges. But in this case, I think they have 20 victims that are testifying,
Mm-hmm.
but it's the same as Diddy in that they're being prosecuted for sex trafficking, not for the actual sexual assaults, because the statute of limitations expired on those because they've been
Yes.
going. But there's a lot of smoke here. So
Mm-hmm.
I've got to believe there's a fire somewhere with these guys.
100%.
One of their wives has left them. So they're pretty well known down in the Miami area as um, not upstanding individuals. So I don't
Mm-hmm.
know what that means if they're criminals too. So we have Sandra Birchmore, but
Uh-huh.
that's another federal trial. That's not going to be televised. That's the police officer up in Stoughton, Mass, that's accused of killing this girl who became pregnant that he had groomed from a young age when she was a police explorer, and he's a police officer, and there's tons of police officers that have been disciplined. It's a whole disaster,
Mm-hmm.
shockingly, up in Massachusetts. Um so much going on there. Yeah, so there's a lot we're going to cover, but
We can't forget really quickly though. We have the Columbus double murder.
oh
That's going to
yes,
be
yes, the dentists.
the dentists that
Yes.
were brutally murdered in Columbus while their children were in the house. They are saying that the ex-husband of the wife is the one who committed the crime. I haven't seen any recent updates about that recently.
Yeah, I saw today there was an update where they had said before that the husband was shot multiple times and she was shot once, and that I guess is not true. They were both
Okay.
shot multiple times.
Okay.
So it's
So
horrific however you look at it, and
yeah.
I've been seeing different um videos they've posted of the couple that was murdered before they were murdered. So it really brings it to life because people are looking at them like a character in a movie or a book
Right.
because we don't know them. But when you
Right.
see them and see them, living, breathing, talking with their kids, it's gut wrenching.
It is. So we'll cover that. We'll cover Nick Rayner is another one that we cannot
Oh,
forget about. Nick
good
Rayner, for
Lord.
those of you that maybe do not follow popular culture, which I assume all of our listeners do, he is the son of a very famous director. Think about When Harry Met Sally.
Yep, Rob
Um,
Reiner.
yep,
Yep.
and he's accused of, I should say, killing his mother and his father. And there's been a lot that's come out about that from other celebrities that knew them, that they had seen them the night before. There have been interviews that have surfaced of Nick on television where he looks mentally unwell. He's been to rehab multiple times. He had a very famous defense attorney who resigned from the case, but then came out and said that Nick is innocent. So there's a lot of moving pieces with that
Which
as
he
well.
can be if he's found mentally ill. That is
Right.
a
He
reason
can,
to get off. But he'd
he
still go to,
can,
an,
he can.
an asylum somewhere, of mental health hospital of some sort.
Right. So we have that, and we have a bunch of other things. I know that we had talked about too at the end. We wanted to cover some of the weirder crime stories.
Oh, we have so many here in Florida.
There's, Florida is the one that will happen probably most frequently.
I think we need to sign off tonight. Let me get the one. Let's see. Where was the one that I really liked? I think this one could be good. Let's see.
I will say, and I don't know if this is the one you're going to pull up, but there was one that you sent me the other day, or maybe it was on Instagram, your Instagram story, of a man in Florida. There we go. A man, I knew it. A man in Florida was riding his alligator through Wendy's drive-thru for some chicken nuggets. And you know what? I'm a chicken nugget lover. I love a good chicken nugget, a good chicken tender.
So you feel it.
I feel his need for nuggets, almost like he has a need for speed. Now, riding a crocodile or an alligator, I should say. I forget that they're different.
Well, crocodiles, there's mixed species, because crocodiles are in the southern hemisphere, but there's some that are like half breeds with gators in the Florida Keys.
So they're like super gators.
I forget what they call them. It's like, I don't know if they call them like super crocs. They call them crocagator. Oh, this is the other one. So we'll end on this one here. Which is actually my favorite. A Florida woman has been accused of driving a motorized shopping cart through a Target while drinking wine from the bottle and eating sushi and cinnamon rolls. So, and she's she looks actually a little bit haggard, but relatively normal. Not like your typical full-on Florida crazy.
I will say it's an interesting food combination, sushi and cinnamon rolls.
Do you know what my biggest question? This was in Orlando, by the way. My biggest question from this news piece is, I didn't know they had sushi at Target.
Okay, so did she get it at Target, or did she?
I don't know. But that's a lot of work if she brought the sushi with her. Then she's getting the motorized shopping cart, and she's got to go to the wine aisle. And then I guess you can get the cinnamon rolls from the snack shack there. Do they sell cinnamon rolls there?
No, I think she must have gotten them from, the Targets here don't sell cinnamon rolls. So
unless they got them in like a box, like the bakery box. I don't know. So there's a lot of work that went into this when you think about it.
Maybe she's coming off a bender at Epcot in Disney World. And she decided, you know what? I just spent the whole day with my kids in Epcot. I need some sushi.
But she's really like relatively normal looking. She doesn't look disheveled. She doesn't look, again, Florida crazy, which has a certain look to it. So I think we shall say goodnight. And I think we'll figure out our schedule, but I think probably Saturdays are going to be our live streams. We might have some, might do a cocktail one week, right?
Yeah, why not?
Accept some questions from the audience. Our family, by the way, is banned from this, asking questions.
You know what? If I can already tell you that if we open up to the Filler family, the Florida ask questions, we are going to be bombarded with the most ridiculous shit. And we don't have time. We don't have time for it.
Well, hopefully
we love you guys.
You can be on the Tough Crowd podcast itself as a kickoff. That was our original plan, but schedules went awry. Yeah. But we're going to do that in the next few days so we can have a whole group. We can recap a lot of the stuff that's been going on here, update everybody. And I think that will be fun.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm ready.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Gracie.
Thank you, Aunt
We'll talk to us.
Jen.
Love you.
Love
Bye.
you. Bye.